So Big Pharma eventually is going to enter into the psychedelic space, but how soon are they going to join? It's happening a lot quicker than what you think. Tap on the screen to learn more. This is the Dales Report podcast. I'm happy to be joined back to the podcast, the CEO of Neonmind, Rob Tessarolo. He's the CEO. How are things, Rob? How's things been? You know, as we're now going into Q4 and obviously exciting times to say the least, with a lot of optimism that's starting to build within the industry.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think there is some good some good reasons to be optimistic. There's I think some catalytic events in the sector before the end of the year. For us at Neonmind, this is a very important quarter for us. We've been reporting out all year some near-term sort of key milestones for us, and we expect to click through those, you know, before the end of the year, on both the research and development side as well as the specialty clinic side of our business.
Well, let's focus on your recent announcement that you have advanced negotiations with potential partners to launch your first specialty clinic location by early 2022. So update, what are next steps on this, I guess, opportunity becoming a reality?
Yeah, you know, we've been very encouraged by the amount of interest out there from service providers, healthcare practitioners, interventional psychiatrists alike, with respect to partnering with Neonmind to help us stand up our Neonmind branded clinics. We've taken a very sort of intentionally methodical approach to getting into this business. We want to ensure that when we identify a location and when we announce that that's where we're going to stand up a business, that it's an area that can support an interventional psychiatry practice, and as such, doing our diligence in that regard to identify the right location. We've also announced and indicated that we're looking for partners to support us on the capex side. Ideally, we don't want to be in the sort of the leasehold improvement and 10-year lease business. We want to be in the business of opening our doors and welcoming patients for these interventional psychiatry treatments. And the fastest, simplest way for us to do that is to find the right service provider across the country where we can, announce location.
When you say partners,
quickly.
And it's been very positive, like what's some of the feedback that you're hearing?
Yeah, so because these modalities, IV ketamine, S-ketamine or intranasal ketamine, transcranial magnetic stimulation, these are approved therapies. And so they're out there in the marketplace, and they're being deployed by various psychiatrists and various healthcare in various communities. The reality is these wait lists are significant. Being able to sort of get into the queue and then access these treatments. These treatments require recurring administration, sometimes every day for a certain amount of time, sometimes once every week for a certain number of weeks. And so we're encouraged by the built up demand that's in the marketplace, and that's why for us we feel like this can be a very viable, hopeful business in the sense that there's patients that need these treatments. These treatments are approved and can be life changing, and there's a company like us who's interested in standing these centers of care up to deliver these
Forward
modalities.
Thinking, when you look at the overall clinical landscape with regards to this industry, how do you think this looks in like 2 or 3 years from now?
Yeah, so I would say I'll maybe take that out to the outer end of the spectrum there. I'd say 3 years from now, we believe that Neonmind will be one of a couple of key players in Canada, with viable businesses across the country that are obviously deploying these modalities, but are doing it in a way where the business is self-sustaining and to be viable. And, businesses need to be able to generate a profit and to be EBITDA positive if they're going to be able to sustain themselves. And so out 3 years from now, we see a handful of companies operating centers that are deploying interventional psychiatric treatments. And then I think, there's that 3-year timeline is when you're right on the sort of cusp of when additional psychedelic substances could potentially start to get approved by different healthcare regulatory agencies around the world, including Health Canada. So, it's at that point in time we do envision another explosion of that in the interest in this sector, because with these new modalities, these new psychedelic substances that are being evaluated, if the data proves out and continues to sort of replicate itself, where there's a durable, striking effect from the administration of through the administration of psychedelic substances, there's going to be a real need to get those out to patients.
So with the right research, and let's say some of these compounds do become legalized in the next couple of years, how soon do you think insurance companies will then come in?
When it comes to paying for a medication or covering a medication, it all comes down to the value that those medications provide. We think that the value equation for potential psychedelic substances is going to look something like acute administration with chronic efficacy, right? And that's not something that you generally get from mainstream pharmaceuticals. You generally don't get, when you look at some of these indications, some of the psychiatric indications, you're taking medicines on a daily basis for an extended period of time. Whereas some of the early data is showing that with a psychedelic substance, you take it once or twice, separated by a couple 2 or 3 weeks, and there's a durable impact.
Which people
so
want.
Absolutely,
they want right now, right?
Absolutely, and when you mix that into the value equation of what the patient is getting for the value of the medicine you're providing or the value of the therapeutic you're providing, when that equation comes out positive, it's in the best interest of payers to pay for it. And so, time will tell on that. There's a lot of work to be done, with respect to deploying medications effectively and ensuring that there is adequate access and availability. I think companies like us, like Neonmind, where we're already thinking about, what endpoints do you need to build into your development plan so that you can make those arguments to the payers, the insurance companies when the time is right.
It's fascinating. It's moving fast, is it not?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a quarter doesn't go by where I don't sort of scratch my head and think, can't even believe. I mean, a year ago, 3 months ago, I can't imagine us saying the things that we've been able to see and describe in the last 3 months. And so it's moving at light speed, and it should. When the data is there, companies follow the data. And they follow the data for a reason. And that's the reason is that innovative ways to treat old problems gets the attention of healthcare practitioners who are trying to help their patients who are seeking novel approaches, and payers. And, when you have that sort of, those three constituents sort of interested in innovation, it makes sense.
I was speaking to a doctor this week from the University of Michigan, and very interesting to see a big pharma actually is going to get involved, a lot quicker than what people think. And a lot of the reasons why is a lot of these doctors around the world are so compelled by this industry is because, there's a lot of track record of research that's been very effective. And then in addition to that, it's just the idea that a lot of these junior biomedical companies are actually doing the research based on science and not the almighty dollar. So I think that's actually a breath of fresh air, obviously, for people in a time of need. And if this continues to stay compelling, do you agree with that? Do you think Big Pharma does get involved sooner rather than later?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think that there's lots of examples of Big Pharma being involved with medications or substances that, it maybe took the industry a while to get comfortable with. But the reality is when I talk about following the data and chasing innovation, big pharma, large pharma, mid-sized pharma does it better than anybody in the world. I mean, we just saw that with respect to COVID, right? I mean, at the end of the day, the only solution there really for public health en masse, is a pharmaceutical solution, right? To vaccinate, vaccinate the population. And, we see some great companies around the world who, really advanced their R&D and, came to market quickly to help solve a problem. And so, I think the stigmatization of any substance, is something that, good data and good clinical research and, well-characterized safety and efficacy will get people on the right side of it pretty quickly.
Your research, let's focus on Neo-001, which for those who are watching is your proprietary synthetic psilocybin compound to treat obesity. From our last conversation, how is it progressing in preclinical studies, knowing you're working towards an IND application filing and a phase 1/2 study in 2022?
Yeah, so we're very, as I mentioned at the outset of this interview, this call, This is an important quarter for us. We will read out some additional preclinicals, an additional preclinical study in the animal model and a rat model, where we expect the results to be exciting and aligned with what we've seen in our earlier models. Likewise, we'll visit with the agency, the FDA. We'll have a consultative session later this quarter, mid-quarter. We expect to get their feedback on our research plan. We have a robust research plan that we're putting in front of them. Well characterized molecule with excellent endpoints and following the guidances that the FDA has put out there for chronic weight loss medications for the obese population. And we think that with psilocybin, is a de-risked molecule. Is a largely de-risked molecule because it's already being administered to humans, and we want to be the first company in the world to conduct a psychedelic proof of concept study with psilocybin in these patients, and we think that's an exciting
how big is the global market when it does come to obesity? I know we touched on it in previous conversations, but for those that are watching new, maybe just recap as to how big this market is.
Yeah, there's 650 million people around the globe are identified as obese based on body mass index. Close to 2 billion people are characterized as overweight.
2 billion. Wow, that's like
almost everybody.
Over 30% of the global population. Wow.
Yeah, is overweight. And I think everybody's, this is a health conscious world where everybody's looking to lose weight. As relative to weight loss, chronic weight loss and the obesity market, I think it projects out to $250 billion being spent on treatments and different modalities by the end of 2022 on an annual basis. So it is it's an absolute epidemic. It's been characterized as such by the WHO. And new innovative ways to treat this problem are necessary. When you look at the actual treatment profile, success profile for anti-obesity medications, what you find with these patients is through lifestyle modifications and pharmacologic treatments, they can lose weight. It's keeping it off, and there's a 30 to 40% failure rate with there's massive weight regain, in the 4 to 5, 6 month time frame. And that's where we really feel like psilocybin has a tremendous potential to make a meaningful difference in the lives of these patients after they've taken the weight off, to be able to keep it off, because chronic weight management is really the goal and really the golden egg, so to speak.
One of the things I want to bring up with psilocybin, we're getting close to the key endpoints for Compass Pathways in their phase 2B trials, which are expected to be announced coming up. It's only a matter of weeks. The trial is used for proprietary psilocybin formulation along with assisted therapy to treat treatment-resistant depression over 230 patients. So how do you think that research will be? And I asked that question because if positive, this could have a good impact on you guys.
Yeah, for sure. I think the industry is expecting it to be positive.
Yeah.
Positive. I think it's a matter of how striking the magnitude of that effect is. When you think about what MAPS reported out on their PTSD trial, albeit with a different classical psychedelic medication or psychedelic substance, the magnitude of the effect that they were able to demonstrate was quite impressive. If we see that same level of impact in the Compass data, I think this will be a thrilling sort of thrust for the sector. And you mentioned that they're looking at psilocybin with some sort of assisted therapy, and again administered in an acute fashion, and then looking for a durable effect. And that is very akin 100%. To what we're looking for, albeit in a different indication. It's acute administration of psilocybin in the obese population with some wraparound psychotherapy and lifestyle modifications, right? This is obesity. Psilocybin is not going to be a magic weight loss pill where you take it and you lose weight. You take it and it assists you in losing weight, and it allows those patients to have a renewed sense of self and keep their weight off. And so we think that there is a real corollary, a very real good consistency in the sense that the Compass data is positive. I think that bodes well for investors looking for other respectable programs to respectable R&D programs to get involved with.
Well, I don't want to give you too much anxiety before you leave, but where do you think we are 12 months from now? I know it seems kind of crazy to think that far out with this industry because it's evolving so much. And you and I were actually speaking before we started this interview as to how much has changed in the last year. But where do you think we are in 12 months with this industry to garner some interest with investors?
Yeah, so I mean, I think that it's fairly straightforward for investors to track the meaningful trials that are being done by the various companies, that they have access to, public and private. And the reason I cite this is that I think that, we're now going on 24 months or getting close to 24 months since this sector has had a lot of sort of spotlight shone on it. And, 24 months is a long time. And a lot of trials can get done, and a lot of trials can get, it takes time to get a trial up and running. It takes time to do a trial, but eventually you have to read out your results. And when you read out your results, that can be a really exciting data. For Neonmind, a year from now, I think 12 months forward, with positive feedback in our consultative process with the FDA and an IND opened by the end of this year, and enrolling patients in our phase 1/2 proof of concept at the beginning of 2022, by the end of next year, a little bit more than a year from now, we could have the world's first proof of concept data, phase 1 data, dosing data in the obese population. And the contemplating that is rather exciting for a company like us.
Keep the momentum going.
Thanks so much for having me on. I look forward to being on again and providing an update on our FDA.
Great. Keep it up, Rob. Thanks a lot. Appreciate your time.
My pleasure. Thanks so much.